first one that we'll do will be for honoring Coach Chris Lockard, Clinton High School basketball, and I thank Commissioner Wandale.
Do you have a copy of the resolution? Jay has it.
Is Jay back there somewhere?
Tracy, they brought it over.
Okay. You want to go ahead and go through the Y-12 resolution then first? Okay. So at this time, if Commissioner Isbell, Commissioner Fritz, and Mayor Frank will please come forward and present the resolution honoring Y-12 National Security Complex.
And joining us tonight from Y-12, Gene Patterson, who does not want to step forward to the podium, he said. He's Community Affairs is his official title. And then we also are honored to have with us the Senior Director of Communications, Jason Bonney. And also, we are honored tonight to have Bill Tyndall. Bill is the site manager at Y-12 National Security Complex. He has worked at Y-12 since 1996 and oversees daily operations at the plant to sustain a safe, secure, and effective nuclear deterrent. And Commissioner Fritz and Chairman Isbell are going to join me in this presentation. Gentlemen, if you'd like to step forward. Commissioner Fritz, how long have you worked at Y-12? 40 years, you're not old enough. All right, a resolution honoring the 75th anniversary of the Y-12 National Security Complex. Whereas in 2018, the Y-12 National Security Complex in Oak Ridge, Tennessee will celebrate its 75th anniversary. And whereas in 1943, construction of Y-12 was seen as a vital step in winning World War II. And 75 years later, Y-12 and its managing contractor, Consolidated Nuclear Security, are still keeping the peace. And whereas in 2017, Y-12 and CNS met all key production deliverables, achieving 104% of planned deliverables. And whereas Y-12's continuing mission to help maintain the nation's nuclear deterrent and preserve national security, provide fuel stock for our nuclear navy, and remove unsecured uranium stockpiles in remote areas around the world and place them in secure locations, is a cause for celebration. And whereas Y-12 is also making a difference in Anderson County and the surrounding region, and whereas more than 6,000 full-time subcontractors and federal employees work at Y-12, providing millions of dollars in direct payroll and tens of thousands of dollars in local and state tax revenue, and whereas CNS provides more than $400,000 to area nonprofits and educational institutions annually in East Tennessee, and whereas in 2017, CNS provided grants to the United Way of Anderson County, Aid to Distressed Families of Appalachian Counties, ADFAC, Pull for Our Veterans, Anderson County EMS, and dozens of other organizations that provide care and aid to our fellow citizens. And whereas through collaborations with labor, colleges, universities, and schools, CNS encourages students to consider careers in trades and crafts, in addition to engineering and other technical fields. And whereas Dream It, Do It is celebrating its third year of the program, and managed by CNS and the Anderson County Chamber of Commerce, Dream It, Do It gives middle school students the opportunity to engage with our manufacturing community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Anderson County Board of Commissioners meeting in regular session this 20th day of February 2018, that we recognize and show appreciation for the Y-12 National Security Complex, its mission, its employees, its contributions to our community, and the 75 years of dedicated service provided on behalf of local citizens, residents of Tennessee, and the United States of America and the world.
Thank you so much. Mayor Frank, Commissioner Isbell, Chairman Isbell, excuse me, commissioners, and I will have to say Chuck, because that's what I know you as, for many, many years. I do want to thank you So when I think back from a history perspective, in February of 1943, when ground was broken in Bear Creek Valley and the Y-12 plant at that time was born, I don't think anyone was thinking 75 years ahead as to what we would become. And what we have become is, and I think no one will doubt, we have become a center where global security is established, and the contributions of our employees that make that happen are felt around the world. And I think also from the standpoint of our employees, we have something in common from an Anderson County and an employee perspective. For the hundreds of employees that are Y-12 employees and our Anderson County residents, they are 100% Anderson County and 100% Y-12 employees. And I think too often we view employers and communities as separate entities, where in fact we coexist and have a symbiotic relationship where both parties benefit. And so it's in that spirit and on behalf of those employees that I gratefully and humbly accept this honor. Thank you.
Commissioners, would you be fine if we all took a picture together? Yeah. Okay.
So that means you want to sit down, is that what you're trying to say?
Come on.
Yes, it does. Come on, guys. There you go.
Thank you.
Introduce me to my new law.
Well,
I saw her every week or two.
go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Coach Lockard and Rachel, you come on up this way, please. You can stand with them. You don't have to. It's up to you. Coach says you have to, and that means you have to. That's the way it was on the court. Appreciate you. Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, I'm honored to read this resolution honoring Chris Lockard and his wins. I played for his dad. Never had the opportunity to play for Chris, but I think he's the same in one. So I'm honored to read this. I'm going to go ahead and read this resolution. I'll try to slow down like I played, Chris. Okay. Anderson County Board of Commissioners Resolution 18-02-674. Resolution honoring Clinton High School basketball coach Chris Lockard. Whereas Chris Lockard has been the head basketball coach for Clinton High School for the past 17 years, while also teaching at his alma mater for 22 years. And whereas Coach Lockard is a hometown hero who graduated from Clinton High School in 1988 and then Tennessee Technical University before returning home to teach and coach with his legendary dad, Coach Don Lockard. And whereas on December 1st, 2017, Coach Lockard won his 300th career coaching game and now has an all-time career record of 308 wins, 125 losses during his coaching career. And whereas With Coach Lockard at the helm, Clinton High School men's team has won 6 district titles, 5 district runner-up honors, 2 region championships, and 4 region runner-up finishes, and 1 state finals tournament appearance. And whereas Coach Lockard has touched and influenced the lives of many young men and women in a positive way, teaching them to focus on their education and make the right decisions. And whereas Coach Lockard and his wife Rachel are active community members and have 5 children, Cole, Chase, Jackson, Wilburn, and Sierra. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Anderson County Board of Commissioners meeting this 20th day, February 2018, we honor and are extremely proud of the outstanding accomplishments by Coach Lockard, both on and off the court. His coaching and teaching abilities have no doubt shaped the lives of many Anderson County men and women, and we applaud his dedication to our community and his devotion to making Anderson County a better place to live, learn, and work. Be it further resolved that we officially recognize and declare February 20th, 2018 as, quote, Coach Chris Lockard Day, end quote, in Anderson County in honor of his 300th career win and his continued service and dedication to the young men and women of Anderson County. Resolved, duly passed, and approved this 20th day, February 2018. Congratulations, Chris.
Speech. Well, I really appreciate this. You know, I can remember playing for Dad when he won his 300th game. And luckily, one of my sons was playing with me when I got my 300th, so it was pretty special. I hadn't made a basket in a long time in a game, so really the award should be recognized to the kids that's played for me and even my dad over the years. But I really, really appreciate this award. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Stephanie will do a NARCOM presentation training for us. Good afternoon.
Good evening, friends. It's always a pleasure to be with you. You have a packet in front of you. I was first asked to address some of ASAP's accomplishments during the 2017 calendar year. We held a banquet on February the 7th. A number of you were present, and we appreciate you for taking time to be there. But we recognized a few of your members, so I just wanted to make special note of that today. Recognized for their support of our Camping for Community campaign were Mayor Frank, Commissioner Meredith, and Commissioner Emmert. So thank you guys for your support with that. Also recognized for his volunteer hours were Chairman Isbell. Thank you so much. And recognized each year we have one Prevention Power Partner of the Year who has shown exemplary service, often behind the scenes, for really serving as a true partner and a true leader in substance abuse prevention in Anderson County. And this year that was awarded to Commissioner Teresa Scott. So congratulations to Teresa. And I hope it goes without saying, but that is the highest honor that we're able to bestow in the community. And so we're so proud of Commissioner Scott and for her efforts. And I'll also say that last year that award went to our law director, Jay Yeager. So lots of good spirited people in this room. In your packet, there's a list of ASAP's accomplishments. I won't go through each of those tonight, but what I do want to say are some of our most proud accomplishments. Of course, most of you know that as a community, we were able to raise more than $34,000 in just under 96 hours in October while we camped on the courthouse steps here for community to raise funds for our Family Drug Treatment Court. I wanted to bring to your attention that we have been through a hiring process, and we hope to be able to kickstart that here very soon. In addition, we were able to partner with our local law enforcement and first responders to place IM1 decals on their emergency emergency response vehicles. That was a big deal for us. We were also able to partner with home health and hospice agencies to provide medication disposal bags for them to pass on to families so that families are aware of the importance of properly disposing medications at the death of their loved one. And then our volunteers accumulated over 1,000 hours in volunteer work here in the community. So I just wanted to highlight a few things that our coalition volunteers have done over the past year. But we're here tonight in a bit of a different capacity. We don't often have the opportunity to provide a training in this type of environment, but we did get a good response from the community. I know there's some community members here to receive this training tonight. ASAP was selected by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services as being the administrator for the CDC Cures Act grant for the East Tennessee region. We are able to partner with a lot of communities around ours to distribute Narcan. And for those of you who don't know, Narcan is naloxone. It's an opioid antagonist. It has the ability to reverse at the proper dose an opioid overdose death. And so the purpose of our being here tonight is multifold. There are some laws in the state of Tennessee that protect someone from liability if they have received training and have a training certificate. So we'll be able to do that tonight, and our grant also allows the product to be given to folks for free. Of course, we want to target people at high risk, but also people who might encounter someone who is experiencing an opioid overdose. I want to give you a little bit of scope of the problem. In 2016, here in Anderson County, we had 31 overdose deaths. We had 289 non-fatal overdoses. We also had 109,911 opioid prescriptions for pain. That's 160 10-milligram hydrocodone pills for every man, woman, and child in this community. The good news is that number is down 34% in a year and a half. Our providers and our prescribers are doing a tremendous job making sure they're reducing doses and providing alternative treatments to pain. While ASAP continues to engage in our mission of primary prevention, we also want to make sure we take this opportunity to work with these at-risk individuals so that we can reverse their overdose. Every time we reverse an overdose, we give an individual an additional opportunity to engage in a treatment program to maintain recovery. I'll tell you, oftentimes, as we've been working on this project, people will ask, why do we want to keep using Narcan? Why do we want to keep saving people who are, and I'll quote, doing this to themselves? And I'd like to turn that in a question back to you to say, what if it were your child? What if it were your spouse? What if it were you? And so we want to take this opportunity to train you to be able to provide this life-saving mechanism to folks in the event you encounter that situation. There's an infographic about Narcan and some of the legal issues that you might have questions about in your packet. But I also want to just mention that we've also recently, through this same grant, received some fentanyl test strips that we'll be able to provide to law enforcement agencies in our community for their protection. We've been able to provide over 660 units of Narcan to our law enforcement agencies regionally and over 480 kits to people at high risk in the communities. We have a CME training for physicians coming up at Methodist Medical Center on March the 6th. And so there are a number of different ways that we're approaching this multi-symptom problem. Tonight, though, we want to make sure that you guys are equipped with the proper training to make sure you know how to use this medication. I understand there are a number of people who are in the audience who are also here for this training. So at this time, I would like to turn things over to Catherine Brunson. Catherine is our regional overdose prevention specialist. She is responsible for providing training and distributing the Narcan kits across this region. And so we have a video that we're going to share with you tonight. And at this point, Catherine, I'll let you go ahead and come on up.
And just Very briefly, inside your packet, there's what is called an individual request form, and that is the form that we are required to have in order to be able to hand out a Narcan unit. It's government, right? So we've got to have paperwork to show where everything's going. So if you would like to have that kit in front of you, I do need you to go ahead and fill out that form. At the bottom, you're requesting 1 unit, and that is through ASAP, or you may leave that alone, and we can fill that in for you, but we do have to have some paperwork. In your folder, you also have in the back on the right-hand side a certificate, which will be evident, that one, yes, sir, if you'll hold that up, which will be evidence of the fact that you have been trained, which is what the state requires in order for us to be able to provide you with a Narcan unit. What we really want you to know, and what we want the community at large to know, is that if you have a constituent in your district who you know has been struggling with addiction issues, we want you to be able to communicate with them and let them know, their family members or they themselves, where they can go to obtain an naloxone unit. We want you to know that on that individual request form, we ask for no personal identifying information whatsoever. We provide the certificate just as you have it with no name. They can fill in their own name. We will ask no personal information whatsoever if they would like to request a kit. And anybody here as well at the end, if you're interested, we can provide you with a kit. We'll be outside, or you also may contact the ASAP office at any point to obtain a kit. Inside the kits, we have 1 unit of Narcan. A unit contains 2 doses. We recognize that on the first dose, we're not always able to reverse the overdose, and we may need more than 1. We also provide a little quick tip sheet, which just kind of walks you through the steps of the video you're getting ready to walk on administering the naloxone. We provide you with disposable gloves in the event that you are not aware of what drug they have in their system. If it is fentanyl, it can go right through your skin. And then we also, most importantly, provide treatment access information. Our hope is that we're able to get someone into the door of treatment at the end. So with that, if you could go ahead and start the video, please.
Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. Please see indications and important safety information at the end of this video. Also, please see accompanying full prescribing information in the use of this product. Narcan nasal spray is an emergency treatment for a known or suspected opioid overdose. The appropriate use of Narcan nasal spray can help you save a life. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. As with any drug, you need to be aware of important safety information concerning its use. If you encounter someone who is unresponsive and you suspect an overdose, first shake their shoulders and shout their name. Ask if he or she is okay. Check for signs of an overdose, unresponsive to touch or voice. Breathing is slow, uneven, or has stopped. Snoring, gasping, or gurgling sounds. Fingernails or lips are blue or purple. Administer Narcan nasal spray as quickly as possible if someone is unresponsive and an opioid overdose is suspected, even when in doubt, because prolonged respiratory depression may result in damage to the central nervous system or even death. Lay the person on their back to receive a dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove Narcan nasal spray from the box. Peel back the tab with the circle to open it. Remove and review the printed quick start guide inside the package. Hold the Narcan nasal spray with your thumb on the bottom of the plunger and your first and middle fingers on either side of the nozzle. Do not press the plunger to test or prime the device. If you do, you will waste all or part of the dose of medication. Tilt the person's head back and provide support under the neck with your hand. Gently insert the tip of the nozzle into one nostril until your fingers on either side of the nozzle are against the person's nose. Press the plunger firmly to give the full dose of Narcan nasal spray. Remove the device from the nostril after giving the dose. After you have given this medication, seek emergency help right away. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care.
I'm with somebody who stopped breathing. I think they had an overdose.
Move the person on their side after giving Narcan nasal spray. If possible, put their hands under their head and bend their upper leg forward. This helps prevent the person from rolling onto their stomach. This is known as the recovery position. Continue to watch the person closely. If they do not wake up or respond to your voice or touch, or if they do not seem to be breathing normally within 2 to 3 minutes, use a new Narcan nasal spray to give an additional dose in the other nostril. Acute opiate withdrawal symptoms may occur from use of Narcan nasal spray in patients who are opioid dependent. Symptoms include body aches, diarrhea, increased heart rate or tachycardia, fever, runny nose, sneezing, goosebumps, also known as piloerection, sweating, yawning, nausea or vomiting, nervousness, restlessness or irritability, shivering or trembling, abdominal cramps, weakness, and increased blood pressure. When the emergency is over, put the Narcan nasal spray back in its box and throw it away in a place that is away from the reach of children. In addition to watching this video, please read the quick start guide that comes with Narcan nasal spray before using it. Talk to a healthcare professional if you have any questions about how to administer Narcan nasal spray. Please read the indications and important safety information that follows. Store Narcan nasal spray at room temperature between 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 25 degrees centigrade. Do not freeze Narcan nasal spray. Keep Narcan nasal spray in the box until ready to use. Protect from light. Replace Narcan nasal spray before the expiration date on the box. Keep Narcan nasal spray and all medicines out of the reach of children. Indications. Narcan naloxone hydrochloride nasal spray is an opioid antagonist indicated for the emergency treatment of known or suspected opioid overdose as manifested by respiratory and or central nervous system depression. Narcan nasal spray is intended for immediate administration as emergency therapy in settings where opioids may be present. Narcan nasal spray is not a substitute for emergency medical care. Important safety information. Narcan nasal spray is contraindicated in patients known to be hypersensitive to naloxone hydrochloride. Seek emergency medical assistance immediately after initial use, keeping the patient under continued surveillance. Risk of recurrent respiratory and CNS depression. Due to the duration of action of naloxone relative to the opioid, keep the patient under continued surveillance and administer repeat doses of naloxone using a new nasal spray with each dose as necessary while awaiting emergency medical assistance. Risk of limited efficacy with partial agonists or mixed.
Just want to reinforce a couple really key points, and that is that every single time that naloxone is administered is critical that you call 911. Depending upon the drug that they've taken, even though you bring them out of an overdose situation, the Narcan only lasts for 25 to 30 minutes, meaning if I have a long-acting drug like methadone or Oxycontin in my system, I can fall back into an overdose again. So it's critical to call 911 every time. Unfortunately, it cannot be left in your vehicle. It needs to be stored at room temperature, away from light, which is why we provide the pouches to keep it in. And not to prime the dose because it's not an inhaler. You will lose all the medication from it. We also want anyone watching at home to know that you can also contact the ASAP office at 865-457-3007. We're located on the 4th floor of the Jolly Building. You are welcome to contact us. We will ask no personal identifying information if you would like to obtain a unit. And if you filled out forms, if we can pass those around, and we will also be on the outside for a little while if anyone would like to come out and accept a unit. And we thank you all very much.
I also just want to make one mention for those who might be watching at home that at Clinton Middle School going on right now is Chasing the Dragon. We will be hosting another Narcan training after Chasing the Dragon tonight at Clinton Middle School. If they arrive by 7:45, they should be able to get in on that. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I have a question, because on this form it says, has the person been trained at Tennessee Department of Health Training? Is that what this was?
Correct. And let me run through that form
Then
with
this
you guys. Thanks for asking that question. Question number 2, tonight you received the Tennessee Department of Health training. Question number 3, do you have a certificate? Commissioners, do you have a certificate in your packet? Everyone else in the room will receive your certificate as you depart and get your unit. So you can answer yes to that question. Question number 4 is answered for you. Question number 5, if you have a specific person you're requesting this for, you may answer that, otherwise select unknown. This is not a refill. Question number 6 is no. Question number 7, you may omit. Question number 8, the answer is 1. And question number 9, the answer is ASAP, ASAP. Of Anderson County.
And Commissioner Meredith, which I greatly appreciate, we have a very limited number of this Narcan to go across the 15 units. If you do not need the unit, you do not know someone in your district, we would appreciate it if you would give those back to us. Thank you. Steve, that's you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any other comments or questions for Stephanie? At this time, this will conclude the public hearing section. We'll take a 10-minute recess. Let's say if we get back here at, we'll just say 6:45. 13-minute recess.
call this Hanners County Board of Commissioners meeting this Tuesday, February 20th, 2018 to order, please. Go to the board and register your attendance.
It doesn't like you, Tim.
It don't.
It's not. There we go, there we go.
'Yes, present and confirmed. Yeah. 16 present. Next, we're going to have the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. First, we're going to stand and address the colors, please. Marissa, call us, please.
To be here today and the lovely weather that has come upon us today, because after so many nights of rain, it's really nice seeing the sun again. We want to pray for the people in Florida and the shooting that has befallen the tragedy of the school down there. We pray for the victims down there and the families of the victims. There's nothing worse than an unexpected tragedy that nobody can explain to those families, nor the friends of those victims. We pray that you may open our minds, Lord, so that we may receive your eternal wisdom. We pray that you open our spirits, Lord, so that we may receive your leadership and guidance. And we pray that you open our hearts, Lord, so that we receive your love. In your holy name, amen. Amen. Please join me in saying the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Absolutely. That was Clinton's JROTC, Air Force JROTC cadets. I have been gone for 3 years, so I don't know them by name right now, but they do an excellent job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder, thank you very much. Next, we have appearance of citizens. If there's any citizens here that would like to approach this county commission with a subject that's not on the agenda. Anyone in the hall? Next, we'll move on to approval and correction of agendas. Consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Regular agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we have some students here that probably need to get in bed a little bit earlier than probably what we're going to be. I'd like to move that item 12, the new business item, be moved up to make it 4A. I make that, I so move.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any other motions to?
Mr. Chairman, because of the time, if you don't mind, I'd like for Commission to move the resolutions section, item 11, up to under, after the Director of Schools.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we have a motion for the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Warfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, if Darren Harness and Gary Clinton will please come forward. As they're coming forward, the National Wild Turkey Federation had approached the Conservation Board about doing a youth turkey hunt at Blockhouse Valley and a Wounded Warrior hunt. We've met with John Bird. John Bird is 101% behind this. He thinks this is a win-win solution. I'll go ahead and make that motion so we can have Darren and Gary discuss that. I move to approve this.
Second.
Have a motion second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
If you guys would like to tell us, I know we talked about doing some educational programs the day before the youth hunt, and Mr. Bird was all for that. If you just real quickly tell us kind of what you got planned, what we've done so far out there.
We've met with John and everything. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a turkey hunter. I ain't speaking. We've met with
Tell us your name and your address, please.
Gary Clinton, 1591 Poplar Creek Road, Oliver Springs. I'm president of the Anderson County chapter of NWTF, and we approached John and Phil with the idea of having a youth hunt and a vets hunt for the kids that don't normally have the opportunity to, go on a hunt or experience a turkey hunt and stuff. So we met with John out there, and we'd like to do some habitat improvement with him and work with him on that kind of stuff. But the youth hunt would be 5 kids, 5 youths that has never harvested turkey before. They have to have their hunter safety course, and age 9 to 16. Yeah. With a legal guardian that has to be present with them, in the blind. But that, and then I'm working with Make-A-Wish for one kid from Make-A-Wish, not taking their wish, but, a little something extra for them. Working with them to get us a kid found for that. And the vets, the way the terrain is out there, it's going to be hard for a wheelchair-bound vet or something. But, with some type of vet with a disability or something, we'd like, 5 of them too, to be able to go and experience the, turkey hunting. We try to get kids involved in the outdoors, keep them off roads and away from video games, and educate them about the outdoors and gun handling and all that. So that's get anything?
The date we have picked for the juvenile hunt is the 24th of March. That is on a Saturday, and we encourage any commissioner that wants to come out around 11 o'clock, 11:30. The mayor, anybody, come on out and be part of it, because on Friday night, we talked to John, and he's going to get some of his students to come down, and we're going to bring the kids that we randomly picked. We're going to get with Phil and them and work with that on getting our candidates for the hunters. And he's agreed to do a show and tell, as the old saying goes, for an hour or so, and that way the kids know what all's actually going on out there. You think, a lot of people that don't know, I didn't really know till I talked to John and Phil. To me, it's the old Anderson County dump. It's more than that. there's a lot of work that's been put into it. And so we got to talking with our NWTF, and they furnished the seed and the saplings and all that for habitat improvement. And we've talked to John and everything, and he's getting a list together of stuff that he would like to try out there that we're going to present to him and go out as a chapter and help plant it and stuff like that. And that way, it'll kind of improve the habitat. As Skeeter said, it's also, each child that gets drawn will have a over 18 adult with them. But also there will be one NWTF member in the blind also with them. So that way we're not just turning everybody loose down there and saying, well, go here, go there. We're working, close with John and them to try to do everything the way the county and the conservation board and everything wants it done. And like I said, and then on the 10th of April, that same Saturday, we're planning, 14th, we're planning on having the veterans hunt. And we're planning on getting Leon on that because I'm sure that he's got some veterans here in Anderson County that don't get the opportunity to be out in the outdoors. There again, you all are welcome to that. Both times we're planning on cooking hamburgers and stuff for the kids and stuff and making a day of it. We're working close with TWRA. Jason Langford and them has agreed to come down also and bring a couple more TWRA agents to help out, kind of do little show and tells and stuff on that. And I think that it's a win-win for John down there because he's getting stuff donated to the landfill, plus it's helping the improvement of the habitat down there. And it's not about the kill or nothing like that. And, right now with everything that's going on with gun control, we're 110% safety all the way around. NWTF, they carry insurance on any of these activities. So the county is not, I think you sent that to Mr. Warfield. He's got copies of that and stuff and everything from the chapter itself so that the county's, and we'll have consent forms signed by everybody that's on the property just as backup for the county so that the county's not liable for nothing. Anything goes wrong, our insurance covers everything. So I wanted to let y'all know that up front. And like I said, we think that, it would be great for the county, the commissioners and everything. If we could get the approval to do it, we would love to have it down there and then see where it goes, as far as, next year, this fall or whatever, working with John and go from there.
Commissioner Scott.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, where do you get your funding for such events?
NWTF, they have each county, each chapter has a 1 year, can I glue that? Every chapter in Tennessee has a banquet once a year for a fundraiser. And all that money pools together in a super fund, what they call, and then we request as chapters funding for, we do a $500 scholarship for Anderson County High School student. We sponsor archery in the schools for Norris Middle School, and that money comes from the super fund.
Well, I appreciate it very much that you're actually paying it forward, giving it back to the county, the residents of the county.
It's all the kids.
This fundraiser that you hold, when is your fundraiser?
It'll be the third Saturday in August. Third Saturday in August. Last year we had it at Anderson County High School. It's a banquet. We have supper and live auction, silent auction. And
are you serving turkey?
Turkey. Yes. And dressing. And dressing. Steaks too, if you're into that kind of thing.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
We also we worked last year on our Jake's Day, which is for the kids. We done it on the day with free fishing and worked with TWRA last year at the fish hatchery. And I forget how much thousands of dollars of prizes that we give out to the kids down there along with TWRA.
Wow.
And so we try to keep everything back in the county that comes from the county.
Thank you very much.
You're good to go. We passed it.
Commissioner Denenberg.
Any more questions?
Commissioner Denenberg.
Happy hunting.
You gonna come down? So,
Got a question over here.
yes.
Would you tell us a little more about the training that you intend to give to the children and who's going to provide that training?
Mr. John was wanting to educate. Is this thing mobile? Mr. John was wanting to educate them on the wildlife that he's doing studies on inside the Anderson County landfill site. He's wanting to educate them on that, and tell them what they might want to look for while they're out in the woods and stuff like that. So John's going to be the educator as far, and I'm going to show them how to.
Firearms as well?
Huh?
They will have training on the firearms as well?
They have to have a hunter safety course through the TWRA. They have a 3-day, I think Jason does a 2-day. 2-day hunter safety course. It's complete with, they train, they study the guide and talk to them, and they have to take a test, a 100-question test, and to pass, but they have to have that hunter safety course. The juveniles will.
Thank you very much.
There's a test that's taken. I teach hunters for the county too. They take a written test, but they also have to have a field test too, where
Yes.
they have to prove that they're handling the firearm safely.
And like I said,
it's a 2-part test. They have to pass both of them.
Each youth will have a legal guardian with them, and then one of us from one of our committee members will be in the blind with them, and there'll be somebody present to take control of the firearm at any given moment.
And that legal guardian will also have had training and have passed a test of some sort?
The legal guardian won't have to be licensed.
They are going to be there, and I don't know how to say this, but sometimes you do get females and males that come out, and we would rather them bring their adult parent or brother or sister, because nowadays it's easy to get stuff turned around.
I wouldn't want to turn my kid loose with somebody I didn't know.
That's why we will be they will be behind the youth in a chair. We will be right beside of them doing the call and ready to take. They're just there for moral support and all that. We're going to be the ones that are going to be responsible to take control. That's why it's a juvenile hunt. And because just like the statewide juvenile hunt, you can't just go out if you're 16-year-old or 15 or whatever and go hunting without an adult there. And so then Jason and them are going to come down on Friday night and do a refresher gun safety just to show these young people what to do and what not to do, just to be safe even though they've passed the test.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Would you mind to recognize your students?
Young man on the end is my nephew, Will Landrum.
Stand up, Will.
The other one is
Come on up, fellas.
is my wife's son. That's my son, Bradley Clinton.
Come on, Joey.
That stuff, I can't do it out in public because you wouldn't believe how many requests I get to go call for people. No, I'm just kidding. But this is Joey Goosley. He's a committee member, and we have a couple more committee members that didn't. And they're here, yes.
Step up there with the little man.
This is my nephew, Cheeks. He'll probably start this year. Ain't that right? And Candace, she's our lady committee member. Oh, my God.
But we do also have a lot, my son, which is 15, we do have a lot of what we call junior committee members. And Bradley and Will started out as junior committee members, which basically they have the right to vote and everything, but they're just young people learning the ways of the NWTF it's just like anything else, farming or anything. You got to start them young and bring them up into it. And we've been blessed to have that. A lot of young people that's willing to help out and stuff at our banquets and stuff. So
Well, we commend you.
I just
Thank
believe
you
it
all.
helps. I mean, you know,
Thank you.
these kids sit in front of a video game, and of course mine did too. But you know, he got in the woods with me too, and you know, they learned about the guns. They know what the guns will do, and you know, they ain't curious, and you know, accident happen. But it's just, it's you know, they're the future. So.
Darren's son is one of my students as well. And,
I'm sorry.
Thank goodness you take after your mom.
Right. But yeah, that's.
Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Got close to that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next, we have elected officials. Sexual harassment complaint review. Our HR director will please come to the podium.
Good afternoon. It saddens me to have to present such a topic this afternoon, but I'll do my very best. The Anderson County Human Resource Department has received multiple reports regarding unbecoming conduct in the workplace by William Jones, Anderson County Circuit Court Clerk. The 5 reports create a harassing pattern and are supported by 2 affidavits and 4 sworn statements obtained by HR from the victims. Of the 5, there are 4 past and present employees and 1 citizen. One of the current employees has been removed from the circuit court position for relocation by the HR department to ensure protection. Alleged instances of unprofessional comments, which include degrading nicknames and request of dressing inappropriately to please him, unlawful interview questions, unwelcomed sexual advances, sexually explicit messages, solicitation of sex, and unwanted touching are among the acts reported creating a hostile work environment for the Anderson County government employees. The report also asserts that Mr. Jones expressed retaliatory behavior up to discharge for those who did not participate in or succumb to his conduct. Additionally, it is noted that Mr. Jones repeatedly boasted of his close relationship with Anderson County government officials, declaring that he was above reproach. In October of 2016, Anderson County Commission approved Healthy Workplace Act policies and took action to ensure those policies were to include elected officials. Those policies included bullying in the workplace, harassment, which contains a large section on sexual harassment, and ethical standards policy update. Multiple trainings were held in November and December of 2016 to update and inform all Anderson County government employees. Upon attending one of the sessions, Mr. Jones announced that he would not sign the form acknowledging the training, nor would he implement the policies for his department, and his staff would not be attending the trainings. In addition to the passages of Anderson County government policy, confirms that people in positions of authority have a particular responsibility to ensure that healthy and appropriate behaviors are exhibited at all times, which hold those in management positions at a higher standard. In light of a hand-delivered letter and an email that I received late this afternoon from Mr. Jones, which I believe was also communicated to Commission, I would like to take a moment to inform Commission that I personally delivered all redacted statements to Mr. Jones last week. Furthermore, Mr. Jones has been put on prior notice by HR, as well as the law director and the chairman of the Anderson County Commission. Mr. Jones stated in his email of that he had just been made aware of the issue is false. In another segment of Mr. Jones' recent email and letter, he claims that his statements to the victims were minor, offensive, joking. It is clear that the victims never perceived his words or intent as jokes. The reports conclude that Mr. Jones has created a hostile work environment that continues to have an adverse impact on all those who have been exposed to his harassing conduct. This time, I'd like to just pause and see if any of y'all have any questions or comments that I would need to take at this time. Okay. Sexual harassment is known to cause lingering mental and physical effects to the victims as well as their families. It is HR's recommendation that Anderson County government offer all victims counseling and job assistance. It is imperative that counseling be obtainable to assist the victims through this very stressful time. Job assistance programs can help those affected in obtaining comparable positions to ensure that he or she remains financially capable of caring for themselves and their families. Access to counseling and job assistance provides the tools necessary to overcome and succeed. It is my formal request that Commission, in the form of a motion, allow me to facilitate counseling and job assistance for the victims. Thank you.
You're requesting,
Yes.
do we have a motion? So moved. Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Does everybody understand what we're voting on? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let the record reflect it was a unanimous voice vote. Is Mr. Jones in the audience or is he in the hallway?
Would you like?
Commissioner Wandale has actually communicated with the circuit court clerk today, and he is going to read a letter. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, received an email that was addressed at 2:59 p.m. today from Mr. Jones. It was an email format. It was sent to yourself, Chairman Isabel, the Mayor Frank, Law Director, County Clerk, and HR Director. I asked Mr. Jones if he wasn't going to be here, would he like for me to read the letter? He did respond, and he asked that I would have it read, and that was at 4:28 p.m. So if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read Mr. Jones's response. And again, this was directed to our chairman, Mr. Tim Isabel, Anderson County Commission, Anderson County Courthouse, 100 North Main Street, Clinton, Tennessee, 37716. Dear Mr. Isabel, I have just been made aware of several statements by our current or former employees, as well as individual never employed by me, which allege various inappropriate workplace actions by me. While some minor offenses, joking, may have taken place, I categorically deny any actions which would create a hostile work environment. I suspect these false allegations are politically motivated with convenient timing. I am in the process of engaging attorneys to respond and appropriately deal with these claims. I have not been interviewed or asked a single thing about any of these matters and look forward to setting the record straight in the proper forum. Again, a copy of this letter is being provided to each commissioner and other officials mentioned below. Please include the copy in the minutes. Sincerely, William T. Jones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. This commission painstakingly took this up. It's been an ongoing thing. We all have privileged information that we cannot share because we have to protect the victims. Each one of us have seen the sworn statements. And with that said, there's a resolution prepared that I'm going to read. Anderson County Board of Commissioners, Resolution 18-02-680. Resolution to admonish and censure William T. Jones, Anderson County Circuit Court Clerk. Whereas Anderson County is committed to providing a quality workplace for our employees, free from harassment in any form. In keeping with this commitment, the Board of Commissioners will not tolerate harassment of county employees by anyone, including elected officials. Whereas the Anderson County Human Resources Department has received multiple reports regarding the workplace conduct of William T. Jones, Circuit Court Clerk, demonstrating a pattern of conduct that is outside the bounds of reasonable, ethical, and moral decency for anyone supervising or working alongside county employees. Whereas these reports allege instances of unwelcome sexual advances, and each one of these there's a footnote, and this footnote will reflect back to the statements that were made. Whereas these reports allege instances of unwelcome sexual advances: 1, solicitation of sex; 2, lewd and vulgar text messages of a sexual nature; 3, unwanted touching in a provocative manner; 4, unprofessional remarks to employees, including but not limited to degrading nicknames; 5, and recommendations for employees to dress inappropriately; 6, threatening behavior; 7, retaliatory discharge; 8, and punishment for those employees that refuse to participate; 9, unlawful employment interview questions; 10, all having the combined cumulative effect of creating a hostile work environment for county employees. Whereas these reports are supported by 5 sworn statements taken under oath, that's 11, 2 additional sworn affidavits, that's 12, and handwritten statement by the husband of one of the female employees. If true, these allegations may constitute an unlawful employment practice in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that's 13, and the Anderson County Comprehensive Personnel Policy. Whereas these reported acts may expose this county and its taxpayers to costly litigation that could have been avoided. Currently, the Human Resources Department has been forced to remove and relocate at least one employee from the supervision of Mr. Jones for her protection. Whereas the Board of Commissioners takes the harassment of county employees serious and has previously adopted the Tennessee Healthy Workplace Act, recommended policies in the form of bullying, social media, harassment, and sexual harassment. However, Mr. Jones has willfully refused to adopt, implement, and participate in mandatory training. Footnote 14. Mr. Jones was awarded the opportunity to be present at the county commission meeting and defend his actions. However, he chose not to. He did that in letter form.
That word was afforded.
Afforded. Mr. Jones was afforded the opportunity to be present at the county commission meeting and defend his action. However, he chose not to attend. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Anderson County Board of Commissioners meeting regular session this 20th day of February 2018, that we as the elected representatives of the citizens of Anderson County do hereby admonish and censure the alleged deplorable and dishonorable conduct of William T. Jones, Circuit Court Clerk. If true, his actions have brought disgrace and embarrassment to this county and the citizens we serve. We respectfully request that Mr. Jones immediately cease this disgraceful conduct, resign his office of public trust, and publicly apologize to these women and men and to all citizens of our county. Effective immediately, the public welfare requiring same.
Second.
Go ahead, a motion, make the
I'd
motion.
like to make a motion to accept this resolution as stated.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Let's go to the board and vote. No, I didn't abstain. Revote.
No, mine's still. There it goes.
Voting yes.
There it goes.
There it goes. Let the record reflect as unanimous vote. Next, we have item 11. Resolutions. Resolution number 18-02-676, supporting the City of Rocky Top's application to participate in the Tennessee Downtown Program.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is resolution number 18-02-677, supporting the City of Clinton's application to participate in Tennessee Downtowns Program.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Resolution supporting legislation establishing Medicaid TennCare rates as the maximum chargeable amount for medical services provided to inmates in county jails and state prisons.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Director of Schools.
Thank you, Chairman Isbell, for allowing me to speak for just a minute tonight and to talk about the Anderson County school system. First of all, just to let you and the citizens know, we sent out a sky alert on Friday that we will be having a town hall meeting at Anderson County High School at 6 o'clock on Thursday night to talk about any concerns the public has about the safety of our schools and our students. And as you know, we take the safety of our students and our staff as a high priority. We want to make sure that our students are safe, but they're in a safe environment. And just to go over a little, you know, it's a three-pronged approach. One is we talk about the hardware in our school system. We've probably spent, we have spent close to $500,000 in the last year putting in new surveillance cameras. We've got a plan to redo all of our cameras. Some of our schools on the outline have had no cameras, and we're working on them. The other thing we've put in buzzers at our front doors. We have actually this year installed what's called it's Raptor Center. And what that is when somebody comes in, they give them their license, and it does a background check on them instantly to see if they're a child predator, to see if there's a warrant out for them. And we work with the Anderson County Sheriff's Department to make sure that happens. The other thing that the citizens may not know is we have a partnership with County Commission that you help us with our SROs. You help fund those SROs. And we just, how quick with that? It's within probably 45 seconds. And it doesn't do a full background check. What it does, it checks to see if they're a child predator, if there's some outstanding warrants, things like that. So we're working through that, and those are just a few things we have that we're doing for Anderson County Schools. But anytime we can listen to the input of our citizens and input from you all, we'll be open to the public. We want to make sure that we have as my dad says, we've turned over every rock to make sure that there's things we can do. And at the end of the day, we still want our schools to be inviting. We want our public to be able to come into our schools. And our schools are not meant to be a closed environment. They're meant to be an open environment. And that, along with itself, are some challenges. The other thing, just to say, I met with my senior staff today and met with our principals of middle schools and high schools to talk about, as you know, students are looking at March 14th, a walkout to really and truly go out and talk about gun control and things like that, and we're working on a plan to work with our students. If they choose to do that, we still want to make sure our students are safe and they've got a voice to be heard. And so those are just a couple of things on safety. And the next thing we want to talk about just a few minutes is Groundhog Day. As you know, on Groundhog Day, we had over 2,500 students out in the community. I really want to thank the elected officials and thank County Commission and thank all the business and industries that allowed our students to go into their businesses and work with them that day. I had 2 students that were with me that day, and they said that we went to way too many meetings, and that is true. And so those are just a few things that we try to do to work with that community support, and we really and truly have a great support from our industry and from our elected officials. The other thing, our high schools again this year were recognized by the state as being ACT rock stars. We were one of 10 districts in the state that when we did the ACT retake in October had a half a point or more gain in their average ACT scores. Now, the great thing about that is it's the second year in a row that we've had that, and that was only 2 school systems in the state. That was us and Maryville City Schools. So we really want to applaud our students and our teachers. They're doing a fantastic job on that. The other thing that you noticed in your packet was the building permits for last year. And I want to thank the Anderson County Chamber for working on that and getting that out to us and getting that out to know where our growth is in the county, because you always know that's one of our challenges is to have affordable housing for Anderson County people that they can live in our county and work in our county. So it was really promising. I want to thank Mr. Meredith for what he does in the chamber, because really and truly he has the best for Anderson County. If you go to those chamber events, they're all about making Anderson County great. So I want to thank him for that. And last but not least, if you saw in there, our students during Christmas giving back for the Norris Food Pantry. It was pretty amazing what our students do. They are great students and they're great learners, but they also have a great sense of pride in this community. And I could sit and talk about the things they do, the community service they do each and every day, but they do a great job. So just thank you for allowing me to come up, and I'll take any questions.
Commissioner Scott.
You know I'm going to ask. How is the Teacher Supply Depot going?
Teacher Supply Depot is going fantastic. We had a day, and we've had snow days and all those things, but anyway, we had a day back in January on an afternoon. I think we had about 60 teachers that came from Anderson County Schools and Clinton City Schools. We had a community support person that gave us a lot of backpacks. About 400 of them, and we didn't use all of those backpacks because our students, we have a great relationship with the Aid for Distressed Families of Anderson County. So last week at the chamber event, we gave them some of those backpacks to help our students, so they'll take them and fill them up with school supplies and bring them back to our school supplies. The one thing we don't that we don't ever get enough of, and that is school supplies. We want to make sure that we're always looking for them. We thank Clinton City. They had a basketball game that they took part of the proceeds from their staff and student basketball game and gave it to our teacher depot. And when we had the Clinton and Anderson County basketball games, they took part of that and gave it a cash donation. And really and truly, we have a lot of people that just step up and give a monetary donation for that. So that it just keeps getting bigger and more exciting every time. We've got some things planned for this summer to try to really get involved with filling a bus full of school supplies.
Good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Parrott, I was reading the Head Start program. I guess it's a yearly review and something that was well written, well done, of course. But what caught my eye, there's two children apparently that were indigent or homeless in the report. I sent an email thanking everyone, but I noticed right away I got a response that those two individuals, young children, one had been reunited with the family, the other one had been picked up by some organization, church, or what have you. So it just speaks volumes to our community, and I want to thank you for that. That meant more to me than anything else, and I appreciate that.
Yes. Oh, and you know, it is hard to believe in Anderson County that we have homeless children, but we average between 20 and 25 students daily that are homeless. And you know, Paula Sellers, that's over our student services, she works very closely with community action, with our local churches and things like that to make sure they have the supplies they need. She's working with the Clinton Baptist Association, and her church actually gave money. We're working with FEMA. FEMA has a lot of food boxes that they didn't use during the hurricane, so they're a complete a meal for a family. And we have bought 1,200 of them, and we'll be bringing them into Anderson County, and we're going to put them in strategic places when we call school off. And that way they can go to a local church, or they can go to, like up on the mountain, they can go to Scotty's and they can pick up food. And those are things, you know, when we talk about every student every day, it is about academics, but it's about those students being safe. It's about those students being fed. And not only that, we go out and we help the parents, because we have parents that don't understand how to get the services they need. So we have with our AWARE program, we go out and we go into the families, into the homes, and we help them. So it takes everybody working together, but I can tell you at the end of the night when our people lay their head down, they're exhausted. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Parrott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioners? Dr. Parrott, I want to say thank you. Anderson County School is a beacon school. We've been told that from people at the state level. Thank you for being proactive in what you're doing Thursday night.
Thank you.
Thank you. County Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have 3 items on the agenda. One is just the official approval of that resolution for the 75th anniversary. The first item is pursuant to TCA 88408 and Attorney General Opinion 1257. Upon the appointment or reappointment of a member to the Civil Service Board, the county mayor must designate a chair of the board. Following last month's appointment of Ms. McCoy, I nominate Bill Riggs as chair of the Civil Service Board.
Motion approved. Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have here present are the attorneys from Leaf Cabraser. If you gentlemen want to come forward to answer any questions. I have before you a resolution that is in response to a request that you come back with something in writing in terms of an official proposal. For those at home, whereas the widespread distribution of pharmaceutical opioids within and around Anderson County, Tennessee has become a major public health problem. Whereas the taxpayers of Anderson County, Tennessee have incurred substantial expenses to combat the negative effects from widespread opioid distribution and abuse. Whereas other communities in Tennessee and around the United States have initiated litigation against opioid pharmaceutical manufacturers and distributors to seek damages for costs incurred in combating the issues stemming from widespread distribution and use of opioids. Whereas Anderson County, Tennessee has been in discussions with the law firm of Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein about potential litigation to recover funds for Anderson County and other relief at no cost to Anderson County. Whereas Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein is representing other governmental entities in similar litigation. Now, therefore, and this is the request for approval, be it resolved by the Anderson County Board of Commissioners, one, that Anderson County retains Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein to be its attorneys at no out-of-pocket cost to Anderson County, with fees and costs to be recovered only from recovery by the county and/or from the defendants directly, in order to investigate potential litigation to recover funds for Anderson County as a result of the widespread distribution and use of pharmaceutical opioids in and around this county. And two, and this is important to you all, any further action, including the actual filing of a lawsuit, would require approval by the Anderson County Commission. If the commission decides not to pursue claims against any party in connection with the opioid epidemic, the county will not be obligated to reimburse attorneys for investigative expenses advanced on behalf of the county. And three, that the Anderson County Mayor is authorized to execute the documents to effectuate the purposes of this resolution, including the appropriate attorney representation agreement, and will be required to provide the necessary information for the review. So John Spraggins and Kenny Bird are here. I know you just came from Scott County where you addressed this, so if you all would like to address this.
I don't know how much we spoke at the operations committee, so I know you all have a long night, so if I can just be if you want me to be brief and kind of go over that again. I will just tell you that that the case that you would be looking at, or the cases that are going on, a lot of them have been filed in federal court, have been moved to one federal court. So there's a process by which all the cases that are in federal court across the country get moved into one court, and that's been moved to Judge Dan Polster in Cleveland, Ohio. And that judge has said he is going to demand a settlement of this. He wants all the parties to get together and resolve this, try to come up with ways to curb the epidemic, in addition to try to recover some of the expenses for counties like yours. Our law firm was named to the executive committee for the plaintiffs in the entire litigation across the country. So by hiring our firm, you would be able to have a seat at that table. That's frankly where this is all going to happen. We have also been appointed as one of the 7 lawyers really to be in charge of these settlement discussions, which are frankly ongoing right now. There is I know there were some questions from Commissioner Scott and others about the DA's claim. District Attorney Clark has a lawsuit that is going on currently in state court. That is right now anyway not within the federal structure. It's its own case in the state court. We will, of course, coordinate with them and talk to their lawyers as well. That's one of the reasons why we have this provision in there, to make sure that, we're going to investigate for you, come back with a recommendation, perhaps lay out the kind of claims you can do in federal court, but also helps us to be able to make sure that you have a seat at the table right away with settlement negotiations that are ongoing right now. Every indication has been made through the pharmaceutical industry, as well as just what's happening in the courts, that where this is going to all happen is in the federal process with Judge Dan Polster. It's why the federal judge, asked for all the attorneys general to appear before him at the settlement talks a few weeks ago, and the DEA, for example, the federal DEA, and all the players, as well as our law firms and the defense firms. That is because the pharmaceutical industry Herb Slattery showed up to that as well, one of the AGs, because that's where all the action is going to happen, and I want you to be involved in that. The district attorney may or may not proceed with his case in state court, but he's got to get past the motion to dismiss. My understanding is that's pending, but we will coordinate with them and make sure that before we file a lawsuit, that's why we would have to come back here. I think we can make sure we hear from General Clark and make sure that we would file in a way that doesn't interfere with that proceeding as well. And then we kind of coordinate both those pieces of litigation. If there's a federal settlement that looks worthy of doing, then we come to you and you talk about it. If General Clark is able to proceed with his litigation and make some headway, we'll see how that looks as well and what that looks at for the county. I will tell you that Rutherford County and Pickett County have faced sort of similar issues where there's already a district attorney suit on file, just like General Clark's, and they have also retained law firms to go ahead and file initiate a lawsuit, not just investigate, but actually filing a lawsuit on behalf of the county to make sure they're protecting their interest in what's going to really be where everything happens in the settlement. So we're filing that on behalf of Rutherford County. Pickett County has another set of lawyers, I believe, that have already filed one for them. Scott County is actually, we just came from talking to them and kind of went over some of the same stuff and in an executive session, so I can't really discuss that, but they're having a vote, I believe, on that tonight.
Commissioner Emmett.
Thank you, Chairman. During our operations meeting, I thought that we were going to wait to hear from our law director, Jay Yeager, and actually hear from Dave Clark. It sounds like we're getting ready to vote on having another team come in. Nothing against them. I thought that was the motion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Emmert's point, the motion that was made during operations meeting, I realize it's going to come up later in the meeting, but I figured I'll just read the official motion in operation. Upon a motion made by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Scott, to forward to full commission and have these gentlemen put in writing the opiate litigation agreement to look at, along with Commissioner Scott's recommendation that Attorney General Dave Clark be present at the February County Commission meeting for commission to make a decision. And that motion carried unanimously. I think Jay may have some information. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure where Mr. Clark is. I mean, I don't.
Well, my point is if our law director, Mr. Yeager's not seen it and Dave Clark has not addressed to Mr. Yeager or they've had talks, then I would defer it for 30 days.
I think Commissioner Alderson just uttered a motion to defer for 30 days.
Well, I'd second it then.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of deferring, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I do have one question.
Sure.
Today on Ask Your Neighbor, which is a local radio station, we talked about this and about taking it up and the difference between the state and the federal. And one of the topics is they make billions of dollars a quarter in profits, these pharmaceutical companies. And what are we looking to achieve other than just hit their pocketbook? But if they lose billions, that's just one quarter. So what are we looking to achieve? Because that's something I couldn't answer. And could you just answer that?
Sure.
Before we...
I'll look at that. I don't know what General Clark's plan is for that, or if he's talked to you all about that. What Judge Polster has said at the hearing that I was present at in Cleveland on behalf of the national litigation that's going on, I think he made it very clear that, yes, we're looking to make sure that counties and cities and local governments get some recovery here for what they've had to spend in excess. But to your point, he said, look, as I told, I think, the operations committee, he said every day we wait 150 people more die of this epidemic, and we have got to do something to curb this. So he is also looking and demanding that the parties get together and discuss ways to reduce the amount of prescriptions and these drugs that are out on the market that are flooding into the cities and counties. For example, this county, over 100 prescriptions per 100 people. So there's one prescription for every man, woman, and child around here. And so he's looking to do that and looking for treatment programs, but also he asked, we need to uncover and really look at what's called the soft spots, he called it, which are the regulatory problems where this is happening and getting through. The pharmaceutical industry is sending out their sales representatives into doctors' offices. Now, you can find some doctors that are running pill mills and that are up to no good, and the district attorney should address those. That's usually the criminal side of things, and the district attorney handles that. I don't know if he's done that here or not, but what we've noticed is that the sales reps are here. I'll give them a second.
Okay.
Sorry,
Mr. Chairman, did we defer the motion?
We did. I just wanted some.
Oh, okay.
Because there was such a public outcry this morning on Ask Your Neighbor, I wanted to know, no matter if we're supporting this from the state or from the federal, what is the outcome going to be? Is it just, hitting their pocketbook for a quarter? Or what is their actual plans? Is it about making money on the litigation or actually doing something, that's worthwhile?
Well, in short, it's about some recovery for the county for the costs you've had to spend, taxpayers have had to spend. But it's also about treatment facilities, treatment ideas, reducing the epidemic, not having the drugs out on the market, stopping the sales reps from the pharmaceutical industry from going into doctors' offices and pushing these drugs for off-label uses that they have no business being prescribed for.
Okay, thank you.
We're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for hearing them, and I hope we don't continue to stall. I think it's important that Anderson County be at the table, and I am certain that those students that you heard about earlier, 20 to 24 students a day that are homeless, all of that is fueled by the opioid epidemic. It is an uncontrollable urge to feed the addiction. It is not like a joint. Once the brain chemistry is changed, I know you heard that earlier from Stephanie with ASAP. This is a serious issue. We need to do everything we can, and there are a lot of costs Anderson County has paid. I know Commissioner Val's very familiar with this. We have 370 inmates in there, and I would probably hazard to guess that most of those are addiction-related incarcerations. Our local jail is the mental health facility. It is not a mental health facility, and those men and women in our jail are not trained to be a mental health facility or addiction treatment specialists. So this is a top-tier firm, so I hope we can come together on this. This is a federal angle. It puts us at the table. The other action item I have is just the official approval of Resolution 1802-678, honoring the 75th anniversary of Y-12 National Security Complex.
Have a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Trying.
and ladies.
Let's go back and do the roll call again so we can
Okay.
get these things working.
If this does not work, we're going to switch to paper vote.
I think we're on paper.
It ain't working.
Go ahead.
Just confirming. Okay. No, he said.
Next month, we'll have new tech.
Okay. Commissioner Warfield,
Well, thank you. I think his beard looks better than mine. Mr. Chairman, I had a question for Mayor Frank. Mayor, I want to thank you for coming to the Anderson County Water Authority Board meeting tonight. Also had several other commissioners in presence, Commissioner Emmert, Commissioner Warfield. Great communication. I thought the residents did a great job speaking
Yes, they
about the smell at times in the three different areas, Mountain View, Brushy Valley, and Emory, I believe. And it sounds as if the Anderson County Water Authority is committed, obviously, to address their issues. And they had a speaker, Mr. Jeff Parrott, did a great job. I thought he was well prepared, and so I appreciate your presence in setting that up. Question I had during that meeting for myself, and I didn't really want to get in and tie up their time, but I noticed we do a lot of CDBG grants through the county for the Anderson County Water Authority. I guess a question I had, if you don't mind, you don't have to answer now, you're not going to have the information, but I would like to understand how many grants we do for the Anderson County Water Authority total. And then I'd also like to understand the total revenue we've done in the last, say, 3-4 years. I'd like to get those numbers and have them for the body here so we can talk more knowledgeably and understand our investment of the taxpayers. It's not much, but the CDBG grant covers 80%. We're kicking in 20%. So if that number's a relatively large number, we have a invested interest, obviously. So if you don't mind,
Sure.
I don't know if I need to make it a motion. I'll be happy to, but I would just like to know the number of grants, and not even just the CDBG grant. If there's others that we participate in, I'd like to know those too.
Sure. And I can get that information pretty quickly. Usually those are on 2-year cycles. This cycle, we're actually applying, and you all authorized the Briceville Volunteer Fire Department as the CDBG application. We have done probably more than CDBG with the Anderson County Water Authority. We've done a lot of Office of Surface Mining grants for the remote coal mining districts. So in order to be eligible for that, you have to have, the water has to be impacted by coal mining. So a lot of times you've got the yellow water that you commissioners have heard about, the sulfur smelling water, and commission has always been willing to do those. And most of those are 100%, so the county has no match. And, but we do have to maintain, the finance office does the administration in terms of maintaining those financial documents, but we can get that together for you pretty quickly by next meeting.
Thank you. And just so I'm clear and the folks at home, Anderson County government has no vested interest in the Anderson County Water Authority.
We make no financial contributions, but I don't know, this is an area where I'm not literate, so I would have to go back. There are probably other members, maybe Commissioner Alderson, Commissioner McCamey, some of those that have, Commissioner Fritz, Creasy probably can speak more to this. The Water Authority is actually a merger of the North Anderson County Utility District, and I think it's all governed under a private act, which I've looked at, but it's been many, many years. So we don't fund them, but they do have a requirement to send us an audit report annually, and that has to be on file with us.
I think it was the North and then also the Anderson County Utilities Board.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If no one else has any questions on that, I had one other item, Mr. Chairman. I know this isn't your department, but I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you may have received some calls Friday. I know I did. Do you know anything about why some of the school employees weren't paid and what they term non-essential employees, which I think they're all essential, but only for, I guess, classification purposes, non-classified, I guess. I understand they did not receive a paycheck. Now, I'm trying to understand why that happened. I know that's not your department, but did you get any calls and did you get any answers?
I didn't get any calls, but the finance office did make me aware in case I did get any calls, and it was simply, my understanding, it was simply a human error. There are multiple payroll files that are actually submitted to SunTrust Bank, and one of the payroll files, and I think it predominantly dealt with the maintenance department and the maintenance team over at the schools and Mr. Hillen's department, that file did not get emailed. And so I don't know, I haven't received a status update if that ended up going through the next day. I do know that that particular employee was extremely remorseful and did spend the whole day, tried to pull every kind of strings that he could actually pull in order to get that posted to those people's accounts that day. I know he was on the phone with individual banks because some people have automatic payments, correct. And they were counting on those funds being deposited. So that is what happened. It was human error.
And maybe the school department, I mean, what I wanted to know is if there are any individuals impacted negatively financially, is there anything we can do to help assist?
Actually, it was all of our classified staff. It was about 400 people that didn't get paid. And I will say that it was, I started answering emails on Saturday morning about 8:30, and I answered about 150 of them. But they, Natalie and her group was here on Saturday. They were writing checks for emergency if they needed that check, and I think that took care of the problem. But I think at the Finance Committee, we need to really talk about that because we know people live from payday to payday, and right. it being a long weekend kind of exacerbated that a lot.
Right.
But,
and obviously, Dr. Perry and Mayor, there was nothing done intentionally. I
no,
understand that.
There was nothing done intentionally. It's just, you have to send, the way I understand it, what Mayor Frank said, you have to send it manually, right. And it's just something that didn't get gone, and then by the time we knew it, it was Friday morning, and they sent it, but the banks, when it went to regions didn't get it out in time. But I can say everybody has been paid by now. It come on about 9 or 10 o'clock this morning. But
Then on the heels of that, of course, Monday was a holiday, so the
Yes.
banks were closed. So I think you bring up an excellent point. I think we need to get with the Finance Committee. I'd like to see some type of solution. I think the manual process seems a little bit antiquated to me. I think we should be all tuned in. Somebody had made a comment about the Skyward process. Maybe we could reevaluate that, Mr. Chairman, and the Finance Committee can look at that. And that seems like it could be possibly an automated system where we don't have to worry about these kinds of things. And again, no disrespect to the employee, don't even know the person's name, and I understand it wasn't intentional, but I appreciate you addressing it because a lot of people have asked, and I understand everybody tried and got in here at Saturday, tried to cut checks, and some of those didn't get the emails, so they had to wait again. And but I appreciate your attention to it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions of the mayor? Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity, as always, to be with you tonight. I've got a very short report. Unless anybody has any questions on the contract approvals or the indigent deaths, I'll move on down to lawsuit pending.
Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay, I was just curious.
Yes, sir.
Indigent deaths, what's the process the county takes on that? Do we try, obviously we don't know who the folks are, I assume, or they don't have the means, or what's?
We try everything in the world we possibly can to contact family members. We check nationwide. The hospital does a very good job working with us. Unfortunately, there's people in our society that have no relatives.
Yes, sir.
They have
just
no
wanted to-
resources whatsoever. We've done a very good job at limiting the financial exposure in this program, and honestly, I don't think we're out that much money in the long haul. Most of the time, what we do is somebody will come forward in the next year or two. We'll find them, and they'll be glad. Or we've had cases where a church has come through, the veterans have come through. It's really a community effort to try to help these folks. It's a sad situation, but we do our best.
I certainly want to be very clear. I wasn't asking about the money. I was just wanting to make sure we exhausted it, and you've already answered all the methods possible to reach out to establish any family. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Anything else? I'll move into these lawsuits, if you don't mind. Had a couple of them that were taken care of, dismissed. The Robert Dale Jennings case is an EEOC claim. It was dismissed with no liability to the county. The Schilling case was dismissed on summary judgment, no liability to the county. That was last Friday. And then I know I sent you an email, but we got word on Friday that the Supreme Court had turned down Coal Creek's appeal. I believe that case is over. That's been, decades of litigation. And for those of you who don't know, that was about how we tax oil and gas reserves that are in the ground. And the Court of Appeals upheld our formulation, and now the Supreme Court has. They refused to hear it. So many, many thanks to Johnny Alley and that group in the assessor's office that helped with this case. They were instrumental in the outcome. The sheriff's promotional examinations, we have written and administered the patrol corporal, patrol sergeant, and the detention facility lieutenant in the past month. The General Sessions Division 2 relocation in the Emory Valley Center, let me just give you a little bit of update on that. The Emory Valley Center looks like they are moving to the small red brick school building that we gave them 3.5 years ago. That's going to take some time, probably about 6 to 8 months to get it done. In the meantime, we're asking the city of Oak Ridge for a temporary certificate of occupancy on the courthouse building. Hopefully, they're going to approve that, and we can go ahead and open our courthouse and see what happens there. But as it stands right now, and you know this is a big issue, that if by chance they do move out, then we'll save close to $60,000 on that smoke and fire alarm system, which is very nice. I'm very appreciative of Emory Valley Center and that board. They understood exactly what the problems were. this was their idea coming to us. So it's not something we pushed on them. And I thank you, Commissioner Yeager, for sitting on that board, explaining to them what was going on. Did an excellent job. But I'm hoping that we'll see some relief and be able to open our court down there, hopefully in April. The Tuppertown Community Center
Hold on a
deed.
second, Jay.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. The Keep Anderson County Beautiful was using one of those rooms down there as far as storage. They had reached out to me, I forget, I think over the weekend or maybe Friday night or so.
They called me too, sir.
Did they call you? Okay. About trying to find them a possible way, if we've got something available that they could store their items in. And I've been meaning to call you, Jay, but I
That's
just
okay.
haven't.
I know you're very busy, but this is the issue. I don't want to promise anybody space in that building, first of all, without your approval. Secondly, we've got a huge archive storage issue that we're going to have to take care of right now. Ms. Harris has waited too long. Those classrooms in the DARC, for those of you that have toured that, are ideal for archive storage. They're climate controlled, they're lockable, very secure. I want to take a look at that. And also, I've got 2 or 3 entities that are asking permission to move into that facility. And one of them is Keep Anderson County Clean and Beautiful. I don't have a problem with that, provided County Commission approves it, but it's going to have to be temporary, because the way I foresee this, as soon as we take care of the court situation, get that up and running, we'll start looking at the archive issue. And but if the County Commission wants Anderson County Clean and Beautiful to have a small room, John Bird told me today 20 by 20 is what he needs to store their signs and things of this nature for a temporary period of time. And I told John that the County Commission will probably move on the archive issue sometime in the summer. So this is temporary. Please make a motion to get it approved, and I'll tell John that it's okay for him to look for a room up to 20 by 20 to store those materials in.
I don't think, my understanding was that they wasn't asking to be in that facility. They was trying to find a facility.
Oh, they asked me today outright.
Oh, did they? Okay, well, that's not, they asked me something else. They were just looking for a place to, as you said, 20 by 20.
Yeah, it's really, the stuff they want to store is stuff you can put in a storage shed. It doesn't have to be climate controlled, so this would have to be temporary. But if County Commission wants to allow them to store some materials in there for just a brief period of time until they can get a more permanent solution to their storage needs, that's fine, but please pass a motion on that.
I'll make that, I'll so move that. For how long a time period, Mr. Yeager?
Let's say June.
June 1st? Mm-hmm. Okay.
We can extend that. We'll know where we're at on the court, and we'll know where we're at on the archive direction at that point.
I'll make that a motion to June 1st.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Jay.
The last thing I'd like to mention to you on this, the General Sessions Division 2, if you're in the area, please drop by. Dustin is a project manager. He's stopped many times to give tours. Walk through, look at it thoroughly. It's starting to take shape. The courtroom is, all the stain materials are up. It's really looking good. I think you'd be proud of the work that's already been accomplished. But if you're in that area, please stop by during the day. The door's open, and if you need somebody to give you a brief tour, just ask for Dustin, the project manager. I've got, item F is the Tuppertown community deed. I went ahead and prepared a deed. This is at the request of Operations Committee. I have this deed. What it is it's bringing back the Tuppertown Community Center back underneath the county. The mayor's got a few ideas for that building. I think a couple of different things she proposed at Operations, but I'll need approval by this body for Chairman Isbell to sign it and for the mayor to sign it. And this will, as you recall, if you don't remember this, about, Robert, what's it been, 6 years or so? We gave them that facility for $10, I believe it was. And now they don't need it, and it had a reverter clause in it, so we've got a deed coming back to them. So this is accepting the property back, and I do need a motion on that.
Second.
Motion and second. Do we have any discussion on the motion?
Yes. And what would this facility be used for if we, we will be taking it over? And I was wondering about how much cost might be involved in renovating it. I think we were talking about it for the ambulance group
The rescue
at one
squad.
time. Okay,
The Judicial Task Force, but I think they're all going to meet in March.
okay. So we don't know about cost of remodeling? or-
It has to be mowed, Mr. Smallridge. It'll definitely require some maintenance down there, and I'm hoping whoever picks it up, whether it's the rescue squad or the judicial task force, they understand that comes with the maintenance, that we just can't be sending our maintenance crew down to Oliver Springs to mow this once a week. It's just way too far. Any other questions about Tuppertown?
We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the cyber insurance claim is from the breach. As you know, we spent a lot of money on replacing the hardware and software during that period of time. We've gone ahead and filed claims. We actually started this process the day after the breach was discovered. So we're well on our way. The insurance adjuster is coming up next Monday to meet with myself, Natalie, and Brian, and Kim and HR, and we're going to discuss all this. We've already submitted. I sent you a copy of what we've submitted. You all should have that. I sent it out about a month ago. But anyway, we're hoping to get a lot of this cost recovered through insurance. Thank goodness that we were prudent enough to look at our insurance policy and add that cyber policy. That was a very good decision on the part of this body to do that, and hopefully it saved us a lot of money. Any questions on that claim? One thing I noticed tonight is, did we get a motion on the Chris Lockhart?
No.
I need that to go ahead and put in the...
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's
Motion
all I have
passes.
for you, Mr. Chairman. Unless somebody has a question, I'll be glad.
I do.
Yes, sir.
And I think we got Commissioner Wandell.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay, I just wanted to thank you for writing the resolution for Chris Lockard.
Oh, that's no problem. I enjoy those. Chris is a fantastic man and a good coach, too.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCamey.
Anybody else have anything for Jay? Mine is for my comment is for the mayor. So.
Dadgum, Robert.
Well, I simply forgot it.
Anything else I can help anybody with?
Yeah, one
Tim?
thing
Yes,
is
sir.
I want to recognize our fellow lieutenant commissioner.
I didn't want to say anything about that, but
Give us a little Elvis move or something.
Thank y'all very much. I appreciate it.
I'll add this to it, and certainly no conspiracy. I had to grade Shane's test, and I have no idea who these people are. They're in there by an employee ID number. I don't even recognize his handwriting, but the first 50 questions are true and false, multiple choice, and fill in the blank. But the last 50 points are all essay, and they're incredibly hard. And Shane did an excellent job. I was glad to see that when we did find out who was attached to these employee ID numbers, it was Shane. And excellent job. I know he put a lot of time in studying for this test. It's very difficult.
How's his writing, though?
Really good.
Is it? Okay.
Honestly, I thought it was a lady writing.
I've heard that before.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
He was a reporter in a different life.
Yeah.
Really? Oh.
Mayor?
Chairman Isabel mentioned Ask Your Neighbor program that was on this morning. There were several questions about the senior center. And I'd like for you just to give the public an update on where we're at on the senior center, the new building versus the old building. And there was the statement made that we were paying for two different centers and only using one, and that's not really true. We bought a building, so we're not paying anything on that.
And I didn't say that.
And right, we were already obligated through October on the old building.
That's
why we
correct.
moved back into the
Yes.
old building, so it's not really costing us any more than it did last month or month before last. But if you would, just give us an update on when we can expect to be back in the new building and what has been being done.
Sure, and I actually, I've been working on a memo for you all just to update you and had intended to put that in the agenda, but I just ran out of time. You are correct that that lease for the existing site was through October of 2018. So actually, when we discovered the elevated levels of mold, it kind of made it convenient. Instead of having to do an emergency repair and paying emergency prices, we were able to just put them back in the other facility. And actually, it probably saved some electric bills during this very, very cold winter that we had. Just to kind of keep you informed, and I'll finish this tomorrow and get it all out to you in your email boxes, but Roger Lloyd, Natalie Erb, Catherine Ashmary, the purchasing director, and I all met. We reviewed a building inspection report that was commissioned following the discovery of elevated levels of mold spores. Mr. Lloyd and I requested that Mrs. Ashmary put together an RFP based on the inspection report in order to engage general contractors to address the deficiencies that were identified by the inspection. Our focus is purely on health and safety, not improvements or remodeling of the building. Once the RFP is drafted, reviewed, and approved, it will be distributed to you all. Ms. Ashmary, Ms. Erb, and Mr. Lloyd will conduct a pre-bid meeting with contractors to do a walkthrough where they will answer all questions about the work requested. I've made the decision, since I am over the senior department, not to accomplish the mold remediation until we have a review of the roof and structure. Mrs. Ashmary believes it's best to separate an inspection of the roof from all the other work, so Mr. Lloyd is actually scheduled to be on site this week with an engineering consultant. In speaking with a couple of separate remediation firms, if water continues to infiltrate the building, we risk repeat issues with elevated levels of mold spores. So that's why I made the decision that I cannot see expending those funds or those remediation funds only to have to turn around and address the matter again if we have water infiltration. Part of the RFP will be to assess and confirm if the water infiltration was in the past or legacy leaks, or if it's still continuing. I will note, however, that Mr. Lloyd's review himself personally does not believe we need a new roof, but there are possibly just a few areas where we need to improve the drainage on the roof, and where openings on the walls of the building have not been properly sealed, possibly allowing water to infiltrate. The inspection report detailed systems and functions that were operating properly and also identified deficiencies that should be corrected. It also was a good exercise in that we were able to get together all the assets and serial numbers. Some of those deficiencies are very minor, such as bolting down the countertops and fixing small leaks on the hot water intake. Others are larger issues, such as double-tapped breakers and gray water from the kitchen that is draining directly into the street instead of being tied into the sewer. It is not an overwhelming project, however, and during our meeting, we all feel like this process shouldn't take very long at all. So I look forward to working with you all on it. I'll get a memo out so that you'll be apprised of the status, but that is where we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Wandell.
Mayor, there seems to have been some confusion. I'm just trying to get clarity on it. Could you tell me who asked to buy the building? Was it you or was it Mr. McCamey? I would just like to know who it was so I can know completely once and for all. And what was the purchase price? Seemed like it was 600 plus or something like that.
Yes, that was the purchase price, yes. I don't know where the idea actually originated. I was cut out of this process. And for instance, even the inspection, commission was advised there was an inspection, but it turns out it was just an advisory visit by the city of Clinton. I was actually working on a new facility, so with a state appropriation, and had been working with Knox County on different plans. I know there were a lot of ideas and discussion going around at that time. I think Commissioner Meredith was working on the facility at the Armory. So I don't know. I thought the buyer is not me, and it's not Commissioner McCamey, but I think...
Well, I accept your answer. I mean, it wasn't you, so I guess that would leave Commissioner McCamey. But somebody brought it to us and said it was a great idea, presented it to us. We went over the information. We were sold the package. We bought the package. And now there's a lot of problems with it. So what I'd like to do is understand if the building doesn't seem to work for all the seniors, maybe we ought to look at reselling it or selling it back to the original owner. Maybe we can get our money back and just press on to different directions. But you know, we only acted on what was asked of us, and you know, then, you know, I don't know who asked. If it wasn't Commissioner McCamey, I know he's very heavily involved in the senior center. Does a great job. I mean, they love him, and he loves them, and we all love our seniors. But somebody brought it to us, and we made that decision based on that evidence that was presented to us. Senior center is in your department.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's your department, so I find it very hard for me to sit here and go, you don't know much about it, but I can see how it could have happened, right? So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know what we're going to do about it. Maybe we ought to just go back to the original owner. I think he might be interested in buying the place back, especially since it has all these troubles. Maybe he'll buy it back at a cheaper price than he sold it to us.
Well, I do believe that once we have information on the RFP, I did go back and actually look at the motion. What Commissioner McCamey, he actually made the motion, and it was for an option to purchase. That option to purchase was passed in April, and this commission actually did not approve that contract until May 15th. And so when I went back and started realizing there are some issues with the building, I examined that contract. There was only 30 days allowed for inspection, and that inspection actually expired, that opportunity expired 7 days after the execution of that contract. So I think this body entered into that agreement believing it was a right of first refusal and earnest money down with an intent to purchase. And, you know, whatever, I think this is a situation, I did bring this up to Budget Committee, there should be a checklist for what happens when we do a purchase. And I think this kind of exercise is what happens when everyone is not on the same page.
Good point.
I know in this Glen Alpine, in the relocation, I'm being very diligent personally to make sure that citizens are at the table, that Mr. Yeager is at the table, that you commissioners are kept informed. And I think that is the key to a successful purchase for the taxpayers. I definitely believe the seniors needed a larger facility, but yes. Commissioner Wandell, you asked me my concerns about the purchase, and I told you the limited amount of what I knew, and I did have some concerns. I had concerns about the ADA entrance, many things. The building was not vacated. When I finally got to do a walkthrough, there was still stuff in there. One of the very first things I did was ask the fire marshal to go in there, and I think some of the commissioners on this board actually helped get it in shape. I think we can salvage this, but I think you'll have better decision-making capability when you have that RFP back. I'm happy to share that inspection report. It's very thick. However, again, a lot of it is just very minor stuff, sure, like a switch plate cover that is not on there. Right. There was not, to my knowledge, an appraisal that was obtained, and I think that would have maybe helped us make a little bit better decision. So,
thank you. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Does anybody need a break before we proceed? We're all good? Okay, next, department heads. No. All right. Okay. All right. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 8:30. Brian, you're up next.
As Brian is coming up, I asked Brian to come forward today because we haven't really heard from him. And I wanted him to kind of give an update on some of the things that he's doing and how much he's actually saved Anderson County and how much is being planned. So thank you for coming, Brian.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I wanted to give an update and to bring you all up to speed on some of the activities of our IT department. We are in our 15th month of operation here at the county. Just some general information. We are at our 700th ticket. We started a help desk program where the staff can either report tickets or issues and then pass those on through their department heads, et cetera. We are at our 700th ticket as of today. Basically, we've been assisting the county and all the departments as we go. We've helped websites. We've rebuilt several. We've worked with Stephanie in tourism. We've worked with Louise in the ADA Commission to get the sites a little more user-friendly for our ADA folks. We've also been working with some of the schools and the surplus and the equipment that they've been turning in, as well as older hardware that is not up to speed. We've been regenerating it, putting more parts into it, bringing it up to speed so it can be reused again. So some of that surplus isn't going into gov deals and being sold at a pennies on the dollar. We're actually reinvesting and using that equipment for another cycle. So that's bringing savings to the county and producing, some taxpayer savings. Let's see, we have Standardize is one of the programs that I'm starting and working on as we get seated in. Well, we have a lot of different hardware throughout the county, like printers and equipment that is just 10 different brands, 5 different kinds of toners, all these different pieces of equipment that are costing us money because we are not standardized. So I'm working on getting that. We have put some emergency procedures in place. We have standby equipment in the shelf ready to go if we have failures. That was one thing when I first got here, that we just didn't have anything planned and priority for any types of challenges of that nature. Now we do. So we have that on the shelf. If there are any failures that occur, we have our backups, we have our systems. Now we can proceed with a problem and correct it. We've been working hand in hand with Natalie Erb's department, Catherine Ashmary in the purchasing department. A lot of the different department heads and people have come to us to help them make their determinations on hardware and software purchases. We've made that available to them on which ways they should go and pretty much what the industry's doing as opposed to what you might find at the stores and the tech markets that are around the area and online. They serve themselves, not what we might really need to have. One of our biggest issues, what we run into is that our internet feeds and our phone systems, the providers that were vending those, we've had old accounts with them. They went back probably, some of them close to 30 years. Some of them paperwork even hard to find on some of the original agreements we made with what was then Bell South. They are a major player for this county. We have a lot of our systems connecting through them as well as other providers that are linked up. What we found by going through this is that just like you would at your house, you have, if you've got Comcast cable and you've had it 10 years, you notice your neighbor moved in, they've got a package that's 3 times better than yours, more channels, and they're paying less. The same thing has occurred here at the county. We've went through those extreme decades of time and these haven't been updated. So I'm bringing those up to speed. On top of that, our speeds and our bandwidth, the throughput we're getting through our network was matching those older plans. We didn't have the up-to-date processing power. Where we're at now, we now have in this building a 1 gigabit internet feed where we were at 13 megabits prior. So we have drastically increased the speed here. On top of that, we've added in secure measures per the breach. We're working with the insurers to recoup some of that money that we've lost due to that incident. Some of the savings that I'm going to mention are with this AT&T package. I don't want to mention some of the vendors that will be departing. I don't want to mention them by name, but as they leave, we will have a $5,000 per month savings that go on our current phone bills and internet bills. We are at this point with the adjustments that we've already made, working with Natalie's department. We are at a $3,000 per month savings that has been realized. I think we're in our 7th month of that. So if you add that up, we're at like 21,000, I do believe, in savings. We have been reinvesting some of that savings back into bringing our buildings up to speed with this fiber optic network that I'm installing throughout the county. Our vendors and our contractors are diligently working to bring these buildings up to code to accept fiber internet. As a county, we had a lot of coaxial modems, things like that, we're feeding our network, and we have now upgraded those, or in process of upgrading those to T1s. So as we stand, in the next few days, we'll be switching over to those AT&T sides of our phone circuits. That will bring it to $8,000 per month. And then as the next couple of months, as we complete our build-outs, Karen and I and Natalie are projecting somewhere around $10,000 per month savings total. It's a 5-year contract term. That's a $600,000 savings to the county. And that's money not having to be paid going forward. So these are drastic savings that we've produced. Also, we've got the Daniel Arthur building that we're currently wiring and bringing up to current. It had some network stuff in there, but it was quite ancient, couldn't be used. So we've had to basically gut all that and put new in. But in that, we're not paying vendors and third parties to install that wiring and equipment. We're doing it ourselves. We have had to make some purchasing on network wires and things like that, but that's stuff we've got through our vendors. Also, another savings, we've got the camera and security system of the Daniel Arthur building, which was quoted by our vendors at $14,000. We have today almost ready to make the purchase to get that equipment in the building, and we're at a little below $7,000. So all in all, that's another $7,000 that we were taking off the price of the expenses of the Daniel Arthur project. So as we go forward, it's my nature to save money. I don't want to spend and have to have the brightest, goldenest, shiny object. I want it to work, and I want it to work for a long time. Just like with your clicker tonight, we've got a process we're going in place next month that will solve that issue. This equipment we've got here is old. Some of it's, been used quite a few years. So overall, just wanted to bring you all up to speed and give you an update. Any questions?
Commissioner Scott?
Oh, but of course.
Go ahead.
I simply wanted to say thank you very much. You've been doing a wonderful job. And had we not had your assistance, what I refer to as my iPad wouldn't be working. So thank you very, very much.
Commissioner Creasy?
Yeah, I think I made a comment at last month's meeting about his work, and one of the best things that's happened is hiring our own IT guy, and I totally agree. And I joke with him that I'm supervising him over at Daniel Arthur.
Yeah, Jerry keeps a good eye on me.
Any other commissioners, because the board's not working?
He's working on that.
Next month, you'll have a whole new way of doing this.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Reports from committees. Budget Committee report by Finance Director Nellie or? Oh, okay.
You missed one.
Yeah, I see it. Human Resources Department. I'm sorry, Kim.
That's okay. That's all right. I just want to take a moment. I had handed out at the Budget Committee this month, and it was the commission as well, to all the commissioners a survey that the employees had taken for the employee benefits. We had a great success with the survey. Over 60% of the employees participated, and it gave a vast amount of information on all different levels. Hope you all have taken the time to look at that. But one of the things I want to mention is that the Board of Trustees allowed HR to put together employee benefit support team. And what we did is we reached out to all of the offices and asked that they give us a person in each office that could help communicate out what was being reviewed and also the surveys. And if it hadn't been for those employees that made up that team, I don't think we would have had the response that we did. So I'd like to take a moment and just recognize all of those representatives. The Anderson County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Kenny Sharp and Sergeant Kenny Bradley. Anderson County Detention Facility, Lieutenant James Gross. Soil Conservation, Kathy Turpin. Trustees, Janice Williford. Health Department, Gail Jordan. Fleet Services, Mark Dyson Jr. and Scott Smith. Clerk and Master, Tammy Hazel. The Mayor's Office, Leanne Tupper. Property Assessor, Macy Wilcox. Pre-trial, Heidi Miller. Veterans Services, Carla Stedman. Finance, Kevin Boland. Planning and Zoning, Danny Phillips. Purchasing, Sheila Davis. County Clerk, Renee Burnett. EMS, Scott Prosas. EMA, Karen Uten. Law Director Office, Nicole Brooks. Juvenile Courts, Angie Perez. General Sessions, Jolie Searle. Tourism, Stephanie Wells. Circuit Court, Darlene Loy. Parks, Ben Taylor. Retirees, Mary Murphy. Building and Grounds, Roger Lloyd. And Registered of Deeds, Kim Wright. All of these people participated in the team, but there were several other employees that showed up and gave us great advice. If you all have any questions on the survey or any comments, anything that you would like to talk about now, or if you want to send it to me in an email, I don't care to help out, help communicate any of that.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that you were the right person for the job at the right time. And I just want to thank you for all the work you've done over these months, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any places that you expect, or you can say at this point that you expect to see changes? There's a lot of cost issues and things with benefits plans, and they're always contentious. Everybody wants to do it a different way. But do you expect major changes in direction, or is it going to be massaging what we've got?
The Board of Trustees actually meets the 6th of March at 3 p.m. in room 118A. We would love to have commission and budget members attend to help assist. Yes, we do expect changes. How drastic those are, we don't know. Any type of direction that can be given by commission or budget is also appreciated.
Mr. McCain.
Do you have any ideas about going away from the self-insurance and maybe contracting with like Blue Cross
We
Blue
have
Shield
got
or something?
our broker to look at the self-insurance plan in reference to do we remain self-insured, or do we look at being fully insured? And in doing so, what she came up with, she got with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the exact plan that we have in place right now with the exact population that we have right now, we would look at a $2 million increase in being fully funded, fully insured. So that's probably not a direction that we'll be going in.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Natalie? Now, what we will have to do on the appropriation, we'll have to do a paper ballot, a paper vote, because the board's not working. Do we have those paper ballots already ready?
Jim, we may still function. If it fails after this, let's go to paper, but let's give it one more shot.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Starting with the cash and fund balance report. Fund balance reserves as of the end of January. Unassigned fund balance is $3.9 million. I'll note that this is below the $4 million target, which requires a supermajority vote to draw down the unassigned fund balance. Restricted fund balance is $1.3 million. Committed fund balance is $2.2 million. Assigned fund balance is $300,000, and the non-spendable fund balance is a little over $1 million. So the total fund balance reserves for the county as of the end of January is $8.8 million. With respect to the cash balance as of the end of January, it's approaching $8 million. And again, consistent with last month, it is well above the trends over the past 2 years. I would note that this cash balance does not reflect the TIF abatement for the Oak Ridge Mall, which could be as much as $600,000. Moving on to the graphs, the January 2018 financial information, and starting with the general fund cash trends, you will note that cash is favorable to past trends. The timing of when the collections for the property tax were received were in December, so we've got a timing issue. In talking with the trustee's office, we think that that may have been due to the changes in the federal tax laws. And as you'll see as we move through these charts and graphs, some of the financial indicators are favorable. However, it is only through January, which is 7 months through the fiscal year, and there are known and potential outflows on the horizon. Moving now to the general fund actual January to date, or I'm sorry, year to date as of January, which shows the revenue, expenses, and deficit for the last several fiscal years as of fiscal year to date in January. You will see that the deficit for 2018 is lower than it has been in past years, but yet I feel that's attributable to receiving property tax revenues earlier than we have in the past. Again, that's a favorable indicator, but that does not reflect the TIF abatement and some other expenses that we know we have coming. And then finally, the general fund unassigned fund balance trends. The unassigned fund balance is decreasing to where Anderson County government finished last fiscal year. That's the information I have on the cash and fund balance, unless there are any other questions.
Commissioner Gay.
Thank you. I attended Oak Ridge City Council last week, and they were talking about sales tax being substantially higher this year. How do you see the trend?
Sales tax is substantially higher. A good, almost 100% of that goes directly to the schools. The county gets a very small amount of that. When I was looking at this a month or so ago, I was seeing that compared to the previous 12 months, it looked like it was 11%. Don't hold me to that percentage, but it was significantly higher than what it had been the previous fiscal year. I am starting to track that on a monthly basis, and we'll be bringing that forward to the budget committee and looking at how that's really, it's great that it's funding the school's budget, but unfortunately it's not something the county or the general fund can sink their teeth into.
Thanks. Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Natalie, great job. As you read through your information, I couldn't help but notice everyone in the audience looking up at the TV monitor, following along. So I want to thank Mr. Chairman, Jeff Cole, and the IT director for I don't know who's responsible for getting it up there. I know they've been working in conjunction to get it done. My next question, Mr. Chairman, is that on television where folks can see it at home yet? If Andy puts it.
If I do that picture-in-picture, you won't be able to see it. It'll be too small.
Okay.
But I can flash up there as budget.
I think, especially when Natalie's doing that, I think it'd be important because it was really intriguing to me to sit here and see everyone following along. Mm-hmm. And you could tell that it made sense, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, instead of us always talking and, you know. So I thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a great job, and I just want to say thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, as a matter of fact, that become as a request from Ask Your Neighbor. Mm-hmm. When a guy called in and said, is there any way to put it where we can follow along? And I was like you, I was watching the people in the audience. So yes. I commend Commission for helping support that. Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you, Commissioner Wandale. I would also ask that the entire agenda is out on the website.
Great point.
I mean, it is several, it can be several hundred pages long, but that graph is when you get to the finance, well, the budget committee, that's where it shows up. So to the degree that somebody can pull it up on their own.
Great point. Thank you.
Okay. So also included were appropriations from the general fund, unassigned fund balance, and pending the approval of tonight's budget amendments, which would be drawing down the unassigned fund balance $31,000. We're at a total of $569,000 for the year. And again, that includes the budgeted deficit for this fiscal year. So if we may move on to the summary of the budget amendments, and I renumbered the groups this time, so there won't be any duplication or confusion. So beginning with Group 2, there's one appropriation for the school requiring a board vote.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Or try.
Hey, all right, there we go.
That sweet spot right there. Motion passes.
Great. Group 3, appropriations, non-school, also requiring board vote, submitting for your approval individually or as a group.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote.
Stay there.
You can just stand there.
Motion passes.
Group 4, transfers, non-school. These are either payroll or major line items that also require board vote, submitting for your approval individually or as a group.
As a group.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is for Oak Ridge.
Let's go to the board and vote.
Yes.
Got one no. Motion passes.
Group 5, appropriations, general fund, unassigned fund balance. Again, these, since we're below the $4 million target, requires supermajority. Submitting for commission's approval individually or as a group.
Have a motion second. Any discussion on the motion? Go to the board and vote, please.
Point it towards Jeff. It worked last time.
Maybe bouncing off his head.
Tim, mine seems to work when I point at the thermostat.
Motion passes.
And then if we may move on to Group 7, there were 3 budget amendments that came to me after the Budget Committee had met. One of them is in your package, and then 2 of them I passed around this evening. Since you haven't had an opportunity to look at them, would you like to take them individually for your consideration? Sure. Great. So the first one, number 39, General Fund 101, Tourism Enhancement Grant. There are committed reserves already. This is a $100,000 grant with a 50-50 match from the county and the state. And I believe it's for the boat ramp, came through Parks and Conservation. So
We had appropriated, but I don't think we have actually moved it.
right, this would allow us to move it into the codes and be able to spend it. So in crossing fiscal years, I committed it, but it needs to move into an expenditure line so we can move forward with that grant.
And just
Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion?
Just real quickly, Stephanie and I have been working with TWRA on getting that ramp put in, and it looks like, is it looking pretty good? Well, if you will explain that to them, I think it's a super thing what we've got worked out with TWRA.
Yes, thank you. And we have been going back and forth with TWRA, and they are going to be able to perform the labor for us. And we're also working with TVA to partner with them on the project, and they have committed funds too. So we're very excited. Just everyone pray for no more rain because the water is at full pool. So hopefully TVA will let it back out, and we can start the project soon.
I think if it works out like it looks like, we've got enough money to actually pave that parking lot at Anderson County Park with the funds. We didn't anticipate that, but TWRA.
We hope.
Back.
Don't hold us to that.
Yeah, we're keeping our
we
fingers
hope.
crossed. But they're basically going to do the labor for free for us. What's going to cost over $180,000? That's what we first looked at. So that's great. Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you. Thanks.
We have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Do you need a board vote on that?
Yes, please.
Motion passes.
Great. Number 40, and again, this is in what I passed out this evening. This is just a transfer, so it's not an appropriation, and it's with IT. There was an unexpected price increase in one of the required systems to keep our email secure. So it's a $3,000 transfer coming from Brian.
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is that a board vote?
Voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
And then finally, from the Jail and Detention Center.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, could
Yes.
you just let her tell us what it is?
Great. This is also restricted money. It's jail commissary, and it's going to be used for purchasing mattresses for the entire jail population. That's 450 in that population. And it's to improve the safety and security and also the hygiene issues that come with the mattresses.
Any other discussion? Need a board vote?
Yes, please.
They're getting good at this.
Yeah. Motion passes.
Great. And that contract, I'm sorry. Okay. That contract you'll be approving in tonight's purchasing, so with that, I'll hand it over to Catherine.
Good evening. The first contract submitting for your approval under Section A is a contract between the Board of Education and Safe Schools.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Scott?
Actually, no, mine was regarding the mattresses, but we're good.
Okay.
The mattresses was a fun bid, by the way. Chief Avery told me he was going to bring his strongest inmates in to test him out, but he actually brought in his strongest employees. But I was like waiting for some inmates to come in. But that was a fun bid. The next contractors.
We're still, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next contracts, there's 5 under Section B. Would you like to approve individually or as a group?
Have a motion and a second to approve as a group. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I have an additional item for commission's consideration per the mayor's request, and that's a grant for the Green Valley Convenience Center. I believe Annette forwarded it to you all. It's Green Valley has experienced some damage from the recent rains, and this grant would help expedite their recovery.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Operations Committee report by Chairman Wandale.
Sorry, let me get to it here. Okay. Anderson County Board Operations Committee minutes. We met on February 12th, 2018. All members were present. We called the meeting to order at 6 o'clock, I believe. Mayor Frank had several items that we discussed. Upon motion made by Commissioner Meade, seconded by Commissioner Alderson, and passed to forward resolution number 18-02-675, Board of Equalization Training to full commission for approval. I'll make a motion. I'll wait.
Second. We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner
Well,
Meade.
just under new state law, it was required for us to do it, so there wasn't really a lot of choice.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item of business was upon a motion made by Commissioner Alderson to approve endorsement of Emergency Operations Center, seconded by Commissioner Isabel. Motion carried. Commissioner Alderson amended his motion to forward to full commission with a recommendation for approval. I make a motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We have covered the other issues, Tuppertown, the opiate litigation, and new business for Rocky Top. We've covered all those issues. Mayor, is there anything I left out? That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we've covered all the resolutions, the new business. Do we have any old business? Anything else to come before this board? Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, and there's been several references to you and the program on WYSH today. It seems to me that the conversation on WYSH, there was more information about the breach that we had here at the courthouse than what we've been told. And so I'm interested in, at some point in the future, us being updated, because I felt embarrassed that Mr. Meredith knew more about our breach than what I think I know.
Well, every commissioner can go to Brian and to Detective Scalia. We were going to try to do that at one meeting, but we couldn't do it under executive session. So Brian has told me that every commissioner can go, and he'll tell them the same thing he told me, and the same way with Detective Scalia, until the case is closed and made public.
So that's my that's my resource for finding the information about the breach, is go to
Yes.
Brian. Thank you.
Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind commissioners that Thursday, February 22, which will be the day after tomorrow, the EMS Audit Committee will be meeting in this room at 5:30. I'd like to invite everyone to attend that. The audit firm is going to be giving us a preliminary report. I'm sure that all of us would find that information beneficial. They're not through with the audit yet, but it would be a good opportunity to come and listen to what they had to say. They're not going to be in the room, and if Myron's still here, he may be able to elaborate. They're not going to be in the room. It's an audio meeting over speaker, but it's effective. But that may give us a little bit of insight, and then when they're through with their committee, of course, we may have some more detail based on that. Just want to remind everybody of that. Thank you.
Commissioner Scott.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at home, here in the audience, commissioners, take note. The 24th of February, Saturday at 6 p.m., Andersonville Volunteer Fire Department is having their annual chili dinner. Please bring money. Saturday, March 3rd, 6 p.m., Medford Volunteer Fire Department. Guess what's on the menu? Chili.
Along with other things.
Yeah, they do have quite a bit.
Yeah.
March 10th, please note your calendars, 6 p.m. Marlow Volunteer Fire Department is having their chili dinner. They also do hot dogs, barbecued hot dogs. Your volunteer fire departments need help. They need money in order to continue with the services that they provide for the county. Keep in mind that they do help each other out as well, not just what's right there in their community. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wandale.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention, we're going to move the March 12th operations meeting to March 5th. That's the Monday prior. We have some conflicts with some of the members on the committee with the Tennessee Government Days in Nashville. So we're going to move the operations to March 5th.
Anyone else? Before we close out, Commissioner Fritz, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
I was going to make a major motion.
I'll let you make it. Give me 1 second. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you commissioners. We've got some very sensitive things that we've dealt with for the last few weeks, month. And for the people at home, these people have done this on Saturday, Sunday, and night. It's been a constant thing that we've dealt with. And sometimes we have to make decisions that we don't want to. But I know how much time you all put in. It's not just sitting here. It's because you do some background And sometimes it may seem like we don't get along, but we get along great because we can agree to disagree. And I just want to say thank you for your service and your continued service. It's your turn.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you.